It's the kind of thing where I like really wanted to express like how important Emma Bunton is to me, and I just like screamed like, "You are my life!"
Yep, from playing a gig in a clown museum in Hollywood to going on stage just before Beyonce when she headlined Coachella 2018, it's been a wild decade or so for Haim. I'm pleased to say that Esty, Danielle and Alana are my guests on tonight's podcast. I met up with the Californian sisters just a couple of weeks ago, late September time, during a brief visit they were making to London to promote their latest single, Summer Girl, but also just to get a short break from writing and recording their forthcoming third album. It's been 7 years since they won the BBC Sound Poll here in the UK. That was the early days of a journey that's seen them win a bunch of awards, but also the diverse admiration of everyone from Primal Scream's Bobby Gillespie right through to Taylor Swift. Spend some time with them and it's easy to see why they make friends so easily. This evening's episode dips back into lots of those career moments so far, but it begins recently, this past summer, when Haim flew to London to see their childhood heroes, the Spice Girls, in concert. I'll let them tell that story. Enjoy listening. If you do like what you hear, please consider supporting this podcast by subscribing to Loud and Quiet magazine. We ship all over the world. The information is at loudandquiet.com/subscribe, where we will post you our next 9 issues for as little as £3 per month. It keeps the magazine in print and it helps us make this podcast. The last time you were in the UK playing shows was last summer.
Yeah.
But have you been here recently? Because did you make it to see the Spice Girls show in the end?
We did go to the Spice Girls show.
Okay,
It
tell
was
me all
amazing.
about that experience.
We flew in. We were doing a charity with the actress Emma Stone, and this charity, Omaze, was like, you could pick any prize. Like, you're going to take a winner to do like some type of like adventure
activity.
date activity, and you could pick whatever you want.
Like they suggested, I think, like, you know, you could get lunch with
Yeah,
this
like lunch
person.
or
You
tea or something like that.
you
Like go
know,
miniature
go-
golfing or
yeah.
something. And we were like, no. And the Spice Girls had just announced that they were doing shows in England. And Esty had the bright idea to be like, what if we take someone to the Spice Girls concert in London? And we honestly didn't think that they were going to go for it, but
Yeah.
they were like, yeah, let's do it. And we ended up bringing this lovely woman, Gail, who was a cancer survivor, and her daughter, and she had never been out of the country before. She had never been out of America.
US.
She got a passport for this trip, and they were so insanely lovely. And we all went to the Spice Girls concert together, and between, I think, the first and second song, I like looked over at Danielle and she was crying.
I was going to say, did you all just
I
end
was-
up
She,
like
like,
hugging
really
each other? It sounds like
cried.
quite an
Yeah.
emotional.
It
Absolutely.
was so,
It was so emotional.
and like so the first, I forget what the first 2 songs were, but they were
I feel
like,
like, was
the
it If
one
You
was
Can't Dance?
wannabe. Oh yeah, if you can't
If you can't dance, that was like, I think that's when I looked over at you and you were like
because
full blown.
I honestly hadn't. That was the one song that I hadn't heard since I think I was in first grade when I was like obsessed with the Spice Girls. Like truly, I mean, I'm still obsessed with them, obviously, but in like the deepest of the fandom, I hadn't heard If You Can't Dance, and when I heard, it, I was like, I love this song, and just the scream. I mean, everyone erupted in such a huge roar that like it just all hit me at the same time, and just tears started streaming down.
I know.
my
I was like,
face.
what? Get it together, Danielle. We're at a Spice Girls
Maybe that was the
concert.
jet lag talking
Yeah,
to
we're
me.
Yeah.
like 3 songs in.
Yeah.
Like, we've got another 2 hours of this.
Yeah, but it was such a good show. It was
Oh,
so
it was so
incredible,
good.
and like they have so many hits.
You forget, don't you?
You forget how many
Yeah.
hits they have, and they were such a big part of our lives growing up. And like it was like a very like we were very nostalgic. Like Danielle was crying. I was happy. We all like after the show were like thinking about like where were we when Spice Girls came out? Like as sisters, we would watch Spice Girls as a family like at least once a month.
Spice World.
Spice World. Sorry, Spice World. Oh my god.
What
Jet
film?
lag, Spice World. I mean, I literally wanted to that like that's what I thought tour buses looked like. Like when I was growing up, like I thought that everyone
With the
had
swing.
like I was like my corner is gonna be like this, and Esty like my corner is gonna be like this, and like little did I know that was not an actual tour bus. That was a soundstage.
You can stay on the Spice Girls bus.
What do you
It's
mean?
on the Isle of Wight.
What?
And it's there permanently, and it's on Airbnb.
What?
So that's a little
Shut
tip for you.
Oh my god.
Oh my god,
I
what
just
are we
like hit
doing
my
here?
face on
Why
the
didn't we
mic.
have this podcast on the Spice Girls bus?
We should have. Why didn't we think we
Next
should have
time.
thought
Once
ahead of
for your
time?
30th birthday, that's
I
what we
know.
should do.
I got
Oh
a
my
couple
goodness.
years for our 30th, for my
Yeah, we got a
30th
couple years.
birthday.
She's got a couple years, but that's the next big one. I think
would
out of
love
all
that.
of us. That's
Don't-
the next big one.
I'm gonna say like, oh my god, that'd be cool, and then just surprise me with that. I'll act surprised.
I imagine it's just like loads of hen dos and like parties and stuff like. Because I mean,
I
get to go to
know.
the
Sure.
Spice
Oh.
Bus.
I
That
know,
would-
that's crazy.
That's pretty incredible.
That's a dream I never thought that I ever wanted, and now it's gonna come true.
I hope so.
I hope
It's like
so.
the biggest hint up there.
Yeah.
Did you get to meet the Spice Girls?
We did really quickly. They were about to sound check, and we got to meet them, and I cried. I think that's when I cried, because my nickname is Baby Haim, and that derives from Baby Spice. And having Baby Haim, as in me, and Baby Spice in the same place, like
Just two babies.
it's two babies, and I wanted to tell her. It's the kind of thing where I like really wanted to express like how important Emma Bunton is to me, and I think I just like screamed like, "You are my life! I love you so much!" And she was super nice, but I think she was like super freaked out. She's like, "Oh my god, I have no idea. Like, this is crazy." But they were so nice, and they put on such a good show, and like, it's like a real pop show. Like, we never really went to pop shows growing up because our parents couldn't really afford tickets that, to go to like see like NSYNC, Spice Girls,
Yeah,
Britney. Like, we never really got to go, even though to this day I'm so devastated that I never went to a pop show growing up. I think it was like one of my first pop shows. It was great.
Yeah.
It was fucking awesome.
Were they one of the bands or one of the first like artists that collectively I've just kind of got an image of you being at home, like having the Spice Girls on, kind of bonding over that band? Was that like a formative band for
Oh
you?
yeah.
Totally.
Okay,
Well,
cool.
Esty was
Totally.
kind of going into like new metal, her new metal stage.
I was kind of living a double life.
I'm openly admit that I did the new metal thing as well. So
Well,
you've got a friend in that.
Okay, so I was like very much into Korn.
Okay, yeah,
and
me too.
Marilyn Manson and this band called Orgy.
Yeah.
Do you remember them? And Limp Bizkit. And I remember like going to Hot Topic and like getting all the regalia and then being so hard and so into all those bands, and then getting home from school, my sisters and I would all get home at the same time, and then like taking off all of that stuff and putting on like
a Union Jack dress.
a Union Jack dress and like platform like Union Jack boots and playing Spice Girls with my sisters. So I was very much like when I was at school, I was like, oh, like such an eye roll. Like Spice Girls, like who are they again? And then literally I would come home.
And be like, stop right now.
Yeah, like doing all the
Thank you very
choreography.
much.
But yeah, new metal was, wow, what a time.
Yeah, it's not aged well, but
I
I also like I'm not like I'll never deny that I wasn't into it. I
No.
kind of did
I
get
know,
sucked
you
into
have
I don't.
to.
I definitely don't hide it, and I think my bass playing was also it was very much informed by like Fieldy, and
Yeah.
I bought a 5-string bass when I got into that stuff, and like, do you remember Monkey Head?
Yes.
Do you remember the bass line?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know if I would have. I like to think that I still have like a little bit of that in my bass playing. There's still like a little bit of slap bass that I do. Sometimes, but yeah, I'm still very much. I mean, it'll come on like on my shuffle sometimes, and I'll be like,
Yeah.
We really went.
yeah, yeah.
We really took a turn like right at the beginning.
Well, it's such a
Now,
juxtaposition.
How did we get to new metal?
I know.
I
okay.
brought it up. I brought it up.
Back
Yeah.
to Spice Girls.
I remember going to see Korn, and I was wearing one of those
Oh my
big
God, the chain.
Janko
like a new metal.
jeans?
Well,
No, the
yeah.
chain?
The
Oh,
chain
metal
with the wallet?
The
Yeah.
wallet.
So, yeah. The really heavy chain.
I had one of
from
those.
Camden Market.
Nice.
And afterwards, there was an enormous queue going back, like stretching along. This is at Wembley Arena, so
Oh,
big
okay.
venue.
Whoa.
Huge
Yeah.
queue afterwards because you had your metal chain confiscated on the way in because they thought it could be used as a weapon.
Right.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
like we had all these like 15, 16-year-old kids like trying to pick up their metal wallet chains.
Oh
Like,
my
it
God.
took me about an hour and a half to get
That's
away after the
no
gig.
way.
Yeah.
Oh.
New
But
metal
still
problems.
Fun. Yeah, new metal
New
problems.
metal
That feels like it would be a good hashtag
Yeah.
on Twitter, doesn't it? That'd be trending
Was
tomorrow.
that was that kind of like you think like the fad that you were kind of a part of, like when you were in like high school and middle school?
Yeah, was that like
I
your...
think definitely. But then
Me too.
That was kind of, I suppose it was a gateway then to sort of like heavier and more experimental bands. Like
Yeah.
after that I went and listen to bands like at the drive-in.
Yeah.
Right.
And got really excited about that. And then for a while I didn't really admit that I loved new metal, liked new metal.
And then
Well,
the Strokes came out.
Right.
then
And then-
exactly.
And then
Right.
you got skinny jeans and Converse.
Yeah.
And a
We talk
blazer.
about that, like that switch over to when the Strokes came out, and like literally my life changed.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like musical like eras are defined quite the same way now, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like it's in hindsight. I feel like in 10 years we'll see like the divide almost. I feel like it's hard when you're in it though to like decipher what genres are or
Yeah.
something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
I
definitely
think it takes time to
defines
understand
yeah, I think
what
it
it was.
takes
Yeah.
time, but I do feel
But
like
that was
a lot of things
that was like
are-
a definitive
Yeah.
like I had like black eyeliner and like gauges in my ears and like I don't know, like a bleach blonde mullet.
Yeah.
And then I saw the video for Last Night, and I remember like unscrewing my gauges like feverishly and like wiping black eyeliner off of my eyes. And I bought an army jacket the next day.
Yeah. Through that Papa Roach
Every-
t-shirt.
Exactly.
I actually do still have that Papa Roach t-shirt.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't get rid of any of like that stuff. I
Cool.
kept everything.
New metal memorabilia.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you released the debut album, like 2013,
Mm-hmm.
it was like the early years of streaming, wasn't it? Like that was starting to become a thing, and like at that stage, like the idea of genre and like boundaries kind of melted away a bit more, and it was just this sense of people, when it came to music, being like, well, you like what you like, and there didn't seem to be any of that stuff we just talked about with new metal
Yeah.
and being kind of like, these days it doesn't matter if you like hip hop, if you like new metal, if you like jazz or whatever, it all just goes
They
together.
can all live kind of together in the same place.
Yeah, and I
you
think
know?
with Haim, like, when you arrived, one minute you're on stage with Bobby Gillespie from Primal Scream, and like seemingly like 2 minutes later supporting Taylor Swift or something like that. And it feels like genre has never been, it's never really been something that comes into Haim, because your world seems very open. Has that ever been like a conscious thing, or is it just you've always just been very open-minded, whether it's Spice Girls or whatever it might be, Metallica or something?
I just think we've always loved like a lot of different types of music, and I think growing up, you know, we also went to like an arts high school. I was always around a lot of jazz musicians, and I loved jazz, and I loved all my friends, but they were always they had such strong opinions about certain types of music, and it always just turned me off. So I feel like we've always just been very open-minded about music, and also like growing up loving Spice Girls, loving pop music, we've always just been kind of pop fans, but also liked a lot of different types of music. And you know, I just think we've always just dabbled in different types of things.
And then, I mean, I've talked about this, I think, a lot, but I went to university for world music.
Mhm.
And I think that also came from listening to a lot of different types of music growing up because of our parents, and they were such big music lovers. And you know, we listened to a lot of like Bulgarian music growing up and Tejano music, and I think that also
yeah, and I
added
also
to it.
like, I feel like every time like we'd see like an old documentary on, you know, like Tom Petty or like the Beatles, like they were always just saying, I mean, I remember Tom Petty saying like an early interview with him, and he was just always like, I just wanted to like learn songs on the radio. And I always like thought, yeah, me too. Like that's all I want. Like the radio. Also, we always talk about this too, because we've thought about this too. But we also trace kind of our musical knowledge back to like always driving in our cars, like with our parents in LA, because we were always in the car. You're always stuck in traffic. You're always going to one side of the city. And we, you know, in the 90s, my parents, we didn't have like a CD player in the car. We hardly had tapes, so we would just listen to the radio. And we're so lucky in LA. There's so many different types of radio stations. It's like, you know, the oldie station, which played like, now it plays, it's so funny because when we were growing up it was just 50s, 60s and 70s, and then like gradually now it plays like early 2000s, and we're like, oh my god, it plays like bye bye bye. I'm like, what is happening?
I was like, oh my god, all these songs are so old, and now I know songs that are played on the oldie station that like came out like when I was like 7, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm the oldie station now.
But yeah, I mean that, and then like obviously the pop stations, and then the alternative stations and the rock stations. I think it's a little different here.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Right?
say there's so much choice. I totally get that. When you're in LA, that is the thing. You almost like just hop in between stations. Like you, it's the equivalent now of having the choice of 100 different playlists on Spotify,
Totally.
or Apple or
Apple
something,
Music,
and
yeah.
you just go, oh, I just want a bit of that, and I want a bit
Yeah.
of that, and like American radio is a bit like that, isn't it? You just sort of go, you switch the dial, and it's something completely different.
Yeah.
In the UK, it was a smaller group of maybe more influential radio stations because there wasn't as much choice, you know?
Right. I mean, I think also we were kind of late also to get CD player. I think the first CD player we got was like in the early 2000s, I think.
I had just started 8th grade, I think.
Yeah. So like we just would listen to the radio all the time.
Did you have
And
like a CD Walkman once you got a CD?
yeah,
player?
once we got, I think I've got my first CD Walkman, I think in like eighth
And
grade.
you had like those
ninth
fold
grade.
out things where you'd slot
yeah.
all your
I
CDs
still-
into
oh, yeah.
and you'd carry those around.
Oh yeah.
I still have one that has DVDs in it.
Yeah.
What a time.
I know.
We're gonna bring it on tour so we can watch DVDs in the van.
The best thing in high school was getting like mixed CDs. Like
I
that
know,
was
the
truly
mix
the
CD
best.
was like I spent so much time doing mix CDs because I loved creating I made like booklets for them, and like I remember getting all like old magazines and like chopping them up and doing like collages for all my friends for their mix CDs.
Yeah, I'll never
It's a lost
forget, like,
art.
The
Yeah,
first
like-
time I heard like Animal Collective sung tongues, I was like on a mix CD, and I was like, it was like that. But then I think it was also maybe Cat Power or something, and I think that must have been in 9th grade. And I was like, wow, like I'm in high school and listening to like.
Wait, is that the one that Dylan made?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I wish there was like a really romantic equivalent of that now. I
I
suppose it's
know.
not
I know.
quite
I
the
guess
same,
it's
is
just
it?
like
Like
sending a
like drive,
playlist.
or
I
like
don't know.
Send a
like-
thumb drive?
But it's just a
Send a
bit like,
thumb
here's a
drive?
digital link that I've made
Yeah.
for you. Whereas like if you
No.
got given a CDR that somebody had like handwritten all the
Oh,
names
yeah.
of the
The
artists in the
songs.
track, and you'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, this person like really likes me, or like
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
or you know, my friend really wants me to get into, you know, get out of new metal and get into Animal Collective or something.
Well, it's funny. I think people before that, when like my uncles and aunts would be like, I remember when I used to send mixed tapes to people.
Yeah.
Like that's a lost art, and I'd be like, oh my god, Uncle Rob, you're so old. But now
No,
it's
it's
like
actually, my first boyfriend did send me a mixtape.
Yeah.
he was so
He
cool.
was so cool.
He was
I know.
so
He truly sent
cool.
me. This must have been in 2006 when like CDs were
Mhm.
like readily available. But he sent me like a mixtape.
Cool.
It was
So good
very
stuff.
cool.
So
It was
indie.
so good. There was a lot. He was actually from Canada, and he was the first person to show me Feist because I think Let It Die was
Had like just come
was
out.
before the Reminder, and yeah, we were big Feist fans. But yeah,
Amazing.
Broken Social Scene, all that good.
Great bands.
Arcade Fire.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there was
Those-
a collection
those
of those
Canadian-
at the same
the
time, wasn't it?
yeah.
So the first time that I ever met you, ever spoke to you, was in 2013. It was January because you just won the BBC Sound Of poll.
Mhm.
And that's almost 7 years ago.
I know.
I
It's
know.
so crazy.
It's gone really so quickly. When you think back to that time, that period of kind of almost going through the process of being a band that starts getting talked about, you know, the classic hype cycle, you know, people, you know, tipping you as a new band and everything else, the BBC Sound Of poll, and then going into UK festival season. I seem to remember that following summer you played Glastonbury and Reading and Leeds and things like that. How do you look back on that period? Because it must have been, just the process of going through being that kind of hyped brand new band, and you suddenly just submerged in this world.
It was
Did
just
it take its toll? What was it like?
it
No.
was crazy. I mean,
we-
I
think
had the best
Yeah, we had the best
time.
time. We look back on it, we're just like, oh, it's so fun. Like,
well, we had been playing in LA at that point for 7 years,
Mm.
playing every venue possible in LA.
The
Like,
Clown Museum.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Cloud Museum. Yeah, like we had been playing. Right? Was it 5 years? What was it?
at that point,
7707 was our
Was our
first
first
gig,
gig.
but we'd been writing music.
But like, how long did we before we came to the UK?
we came in the UK in 2012, so 5 years.
5 years. So yeah, so we had been playing like every venue in LA, just trying to get signed, and you know, not being able to record a song because we didn't really know what we were doing in the studio at that point.
We couldn't get our MySpace popping. That
Yeah, we
was,
could.
like,
Let
our
me
big-
tell you,
Yeah.
getting
What a time.
What a time getting your MySpace popping. And then when we started coming to the UK, it was just kind of because I had never been here before I played a show here. Like landing here was the first
Yeah.
time I was ever
Same
here
I
for
had
to
me.
play a
been
show.
here 'cause I
Danielle had
played
been
with
here.
Julian Casablancas, and
Mhm.
we played. Where did we play? Brixton. I don't remember what the venue we played for that tour. I think it was Brixton.
So you'd had a slight taste of
Yeah,
what
and
playing
like-
shows in the UK was
Oh my
like.
gosh, it was like
Danielle came home and was like, I took the tube. And I was like, oh my gosh, how
Tell
was
me
it?
about it.
Tell me everything. So
And
yeah,
also being here with Julian was also, it's like he's like, I felt like at the time like he was like John Lennon or something. Like it was like Beatlemania like around him. Like people were like screaming, you know. I feel like he's kind of like he's a legend in general.
well, he also, the Strokes also kind of started in the
they
UK.
broke here.
They broke here.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I remember
Yeah.
it well. I mean, you've played the Reading Festival a number of times now, but I was at that Reading Festival where they had to kind of get bumped up because
Yeah, I heard
somebody
about
realized
that. This was like folklore. I was like, I feel like I've read like Wikipedia's about this
Yeah.
gig.
it's definitely like a UK live music history moment.
Yeah.
So he's like, we need to get that band out of the tent because there's going to be like 40,000 people that want to see them. or
Yeah.
whatever.
Wow.
Was that helpful, kind of having somebody who'd already, did that help? Did he kind of have some words of guidance just to sort of see through the
Julian,
period?
at that point, I mean, I hadn't really talked to Julian in a while by the time we got to the UK, but I will say having toured with him and Jenny Lewis and like being the guitarist for them and stuff, it definitely, I mean, I didn't know what like an agent was. Like I didn't know, of course, like I look, like we always say, like behind the music, that VH1, I don't know if you guys had that here.
Yeah.
That was like our, like we would just
Bible.
like our Bible, we would study, like, oh my God. I mean, it's so funny because like I feel like all the ones we saw were for like were when bands got signed in like the 80s and the 70s, and they were all just like, yeah, we were playing a club and we got scouted by our whatever, like by our label. So we always thought like that's how you make it in the music industry. Anyway, yeah, like stuff like that, and just touring in general. I mean, I truly was like, I was such a big fan of Jenny Lewis, and I was such a huge fan of Julian, like when I was in their bands, and I never told them. I was like the weird creepy girl, and I was like, yeah, what band were you in? To Julian, you know, I would always kind of just
Playing it so cool.
yeah,
You're
I
just
tried to
like,
play it cool because I didn't want him to think I was like a total creep, but
Be like the Strokes. No, it rings a bell.
Yeah.
but I definitely think like it helped me just understand like, oh, there's a tour manager, oh, there's an agent, there's a manager. It's like, okay, and I feel like that kind of helped us figure out like what this crazy industry is a little bit. When we came here to play shows, we had just played South by Southwest in the US, and we didn't get accepted, but we just like went anyway because we knew a lot of people that were playing, and you know, I feel like there's so many shows that aren't like official showcases at South by, so we're just like, we're just gonna go. And we had just released our EP, and there was like a little bit of traction there, like, oh my God, people are coming to the shows, and then but still nobody wanted to sign us. So then when we came here for the first time, our mission, we were like, we want to get signed. That was like our mission at our first show, because there had been a little buzz and we had heard that like maybe some labels were coming, so we were truly on a mission.
Yeah.
You were like, we're going to go to the UK, we're going to do a VH1, and we're going to get scouted,
Yeah,
and we're
yeah,
never coming
exactly.
home.
But truly our dream, like going into it, because we were such big fans of the Strokes and of like, there's so many,
Petty.
you know, White Stripes, there's so many American bands that broke here, and we only like dreamed that we could be also like in that kind of
On that list.
club.
Fast forward a few years, I wanted to ask you about some of the incredible experiences you had the last few years, starting with Coachella last year, where you performed just before Beyonce.
Yeah.
I mean, how was that?
This one of the scariest moments of my life. I mean, I can't even believe that we said yes, to be honest. Like, it's like literally David and Goliath. I mean, we are the biggest Beyonce fans, like in the world. I mean, like when I've seen her perform so many times, and she's such an incredible, like, I can't even call her anything other than an icon.
I know. I mean, we
Like,
referenced Destiny's Child in our
Forever
music, like
video.
our first music video.
So when it came to Coachella, I mean, that had been our childhood festival. I mean, that was like my Glastonbury, even though it's not even close.
You really can't
to
compare.
Glastonbury.
Honestly,
You can't even compare.
I'm astonished that you were even.
No, I know,
compared.
but that was like my festival when I was 15. Like, that was like my 15-year-old, like, going to Coachella.
Yeah.
So it was just like I think it was one of the craziest moments of my life. I had never been more nervous. I mean, I never get nervous playing a show, but when you're before an icon, it's kind of like, I have never been more scared. But it actually ended up being super fun, and I got to get a really good spot to watch Beyonce. So I think it was like, it was worth it. I was like, I got to play
That
the
was
show,
really the
get it
payment.
over with, and I got
That
like
was
a
truly the
prime
payment.
spot to watch the whole show. It was crazy.
I wasn't there, but I have watched the Homecoming film on
It's
Netflix.
incredible.
And I must admit the hairs on the back of my neck went up when I watched it, because if anybody that hasn't seen it, she opened the show with like a massive kind of cast of musicians and dancers, and they kind of started on the runway, didn't they? And they moved to the stage, and there's this pyramid, and a band started playing Crazy in Love in a sort of New Orleans sort of brass band style, and then she like arrived on stage on like a pneumatic platform, and I was like, by the time you got eyes on Beyonce, you're like, this is the greatest opening to any show of all time.
I know.
Totally.
Other than our opening.
Obviously,
exactly.
Second
Clearly,
greatest. That's what I meant. Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Was it as electric being there?
Yeah.
Stupid
like
question,
times
but
like 50. I mean, like, she is just, I mean, I could go on and on about Beyonce, but it really, I mean, going to Coachella that many times, I mean, I had said that I had been going since I was 15. Like, you see so many headliners, and then Beyonce headlines, and then I'm terrified for whoever has to play. I mean, I guess all the people played last year, but it was a show that you honestly could not beat. It was the most incredible show I'd ever seen in my whole life, and and you could tell, like, every detail of that show was like so particular. Like, they'd been like practicing that show for months and months and months. I mean, we only got a month practice before. Luckily, I think that the thing that was like super funny about it is like when we heard that we were opening up for Beyonce, we were like, oh my gosh, we got to call in the troops. So like we called Paul Thomas Anderson, and he kind of helped direct us through our show, which was like the biggest gift. And I think it was also fun for him because I don't think he even thought like in his life that he would like help with a stage show. And he kind of helped us with like every step of the way during that performance. So he wanted to start our show. Our big entrance was like a camera following us backstage, and then we ended up on the stage, and that was also like terrifying because I was like, if I trip when I'm walking towards the stage and there's like a camera on me, this is going to be really embarrassing. It's one of those shows that I look back at it and I'm so happy that we did it, but I'm so happy it's not like that I don't have to do it again.
Not every
night.
Like,
I'm really happy that I can just put that in my mental Rolodex. I get to tell my grandchildren, your grandma opened up for Beyonce once at a festival, and that was tight.
It's an art in itself, isn't it? Arriving on stage, like when you think about, I mean, that entrance that you made sounds fantastic, but over the years I've seen different artists do it in different ways, like the classic curtain drop.
Right,
There's
totally.
like the one band member coming on at a time thing.
Oh yeah, we've done that.
Have you?
Oh yeah, it's a good move.
What's the best, apart from your own way of doing it at the moment, what's the best you've seen?
I mean, I've always wanted to do the elevator. That seems so much fun. I mean, I don't think it'll ever work for us because we have instruments. Like, I don't know, like our guitar, like our cable will like get caught in the elevator. Like one of us will fall to our death. But like the elevator gag, like is the coolest thing. The slow elevator, and you're just holding a pose.
Crazy.
No, it's the coolest. It's definitely, I think, the coolest way to get on stage. Bless you.
You know, probably the least coolest way to get on stage is
what?
If all three of us rode in on segways.
Yeah, that is the. Yeah, I don't think we're ever.
That might be the least cool way. I don't know.
Development or
I think that's the better question. Is what's
what's like the least cool way to get walk on stage?
To walk on stage.
Yeah, I think segways are definitely out there.
Yeah, probably not the best way.
When you toured that last record, you came to the UK, did some shows in Europe, but you also played in the States, and you were joined on the tour by Lizzo, who's had an amazing year.
Yes.
So have you been watching from the kind of sidelines, sort of cheering her on?
Oh yeah, I mean, the thing is like Lizzo's been around for so long. She's worked so hard. She's honestly one of the hardest workers I've ever met, and also like the best opener we've ever had. But she works so insanely hard, and like seeing how people have just fallen in love with her. Like, I'm just like, y'all are late.
Yeah.
But also
like,
our crowd, like I feel like when she was opening for us, like our crowd just like was so like in awe of her, and we were just like, this is gonna, like, she's gonna be playing here in a year. And like truly, she just sold out 2 nights at Radio City, which is what we did with her. So we're like so stoked for her.
We're so happy for her. She honestly deserves every ounce of credit that she's getting.
I haven't.
It's incredible.
Her sound this year, but I didn't.
She is so good live, and everyone that's around her. I mean, it really did kind of feel like family when she was on tour. But yeah, she's killer. Like, she's so good.
In terms of your own music, Summer Girl, this is the single that's out at the moment, the Over Here, that you've been playing and kind of talking about. Danielle, you kind of been quite open about talking about the origins of that song and kind of where it came from. Would you mind like telling me a little bit about that?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, it was actually during the making of
Something to Tell You.
Something to Tell You. My boyfriend got diagnosed with cancer, and he's also our producer, Ariel. So, you know, a lot of people, I think, when we were coming out with our last album, you know, a lot of the things that were thrown, I was like, oh, you guys took so long, and it was not something that it was not my place to share that information. So when we did end up releasing it, Ariel, I think it was like a couple months later, he like told a story. And so anyway, so that happened. And during that time, sorry, I'm just like going through a little bit. During that time, I was trying to write, and I had this idea, and I brought up GarageBand on my phone, which is the program that I usually use to like write a lot. And so I brought up GarageBand, and I kind of did this little bass line on it. That's actually the electric bass line, not the double bass line, but the electric bass line on Summer Girl is from my original GarageBand demo. There's this program on it on GarageBand called like Smart Bass, and you literally you can play it kind of like a drum machine almost. It's like different. It's just a bass sound, but you can literally pluck out different notes. Anyway,
like audio notes almost, you said.
Yeah. So I wrote that bass line, and I kind of came up with this like doot doot doot, this little doot 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 melody, and I kept singing these like words like I'm your sunny girl, I'm your summer girl, I'm your fuzzy girl, I'm your like I just want to be. At that moment, I just kind of wanted to be Ariel's kind of, you know, warmth when he was feeling really kind of down. And so yeah, I wrote that demo really quickly on my phone and kind of didn't really think a lot about it, and that must have been in 2017 or 16, something like that. And I was in the shower like in April, because I don't know, I feel like I get a lot of my like ideas in the shower. I feel like a lot of people do. I don't know what it is about
like
the fucking shower.
That's where my best ideas come.
I don't know. It's so weird. But I had remembered, I was like, oh, there was that bass line. I just really remembered the bass line. And I was like, what is that? What is that? And I opened up my phone, and I had the GarageBand session. And I remember listening and be like, there's something in here. I don't know what it is, but there's something about this. So I took it to Rostam, and he heard something in it. I mean, I have the demo. I can pull it up.
Yeah.
Let's see. I still have it. But yeah. And then I did the drums. Oops. No, not record. Oh, no. I don't want to fuck this up.
Mine too.
Esti's there. Like,
How do you
ready
want
to
to
get going.
yeah.
I'm
Like,
so
don't
excited.
fuck this up.
Sorry, I want to keep. I should like actually save this. But I redid the drums, but that's actually a pretty good drum sound. I need to kind of start and stop. I don't know what I have in here. Yeah, it's basically what I have.
Yeah, it's amazing just how honest like the final product is to like the original idea.
Yeah, I know. It's I'm
It's quite
telling you,
striking.
I'm not gonna like. People think I'm like sponsored by GarageBand, but I'm really not. But it truly. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. Like we talked about it earlier. Like when we were coming up in LA, like again, like MySpace was like all what the bookers cared about, and like for some reason we'd save up all of our money, and I've talked about this before, but I think it's important. Like we saved up all of our money, and we would go into like really nice studio for one day and try to bang out a couple songs, and just sonic, like it was so hard to get something. Like I didn't know anything about recording, or we didn't know anything about that stuff. So we would go in just kind of like a blank studio and come out with something that just sounded so generic sonically. And it wasn't until I got my first Mac and it came with GarageBand that you can make something sound so unique and interesting in a matter of minutes. And sonics also really help us write stuff.
Yeah. I've heard you talk a little bit about how, with Summer Girl in particular, like you had the idea, I guess the process from initial idea to song to video to getting it out there was one of the quickest that you've had.
Yeah.
Is that something you're keen to embrace now because you felt that you've maybe, when you've been in the studio in the past, you've kind of not overthought things, but you found yourself kind of sometimes starting and stopping? Now you just sort of want to embrace that sense of like, we've got a song, let's make it, let's put it out.
I think, it's so funny. We're talking about, 2013 versus now. And even though it's, 7 years is kind of a lot of time, but everything's changed so much with releasing music. When we were first starting, it was like, it took 2 months from final product to actually coming out.
Yeah.
And now it truly can take less than a week. I mean, it could be in an instant, truly just upload it to SoundCloud or whatever. But yeah, I think now we're kind of embracing that as maybe part of our process for this new record, is just kind of let's release a song. We're excited to kind of explore that, and hopefully we'll be doing that soon.
Yeah. Once you're done in London, are you heading home? Are you going to start carry on writing? Or?
Yeah,
we're going home and trying to finish up some songs. We have a block of songs that are almost done, that we decided to come to London to get an ear break. It's always really good to get a little bit of an ear break.
Yeah. It's like a long weekend away.
Yeah, it's a long weekend. No, it's good because we're going to come home and listen to the songs and be we have to change so much because we finally got an ear break. But no, we're coming home and working on the music, and I think we're going to release something really soon. Right now we're kind of just wanting to release songs here and there, but obviously we're an album band. We love being an album band. We love making records, so we'll put out a record soon. We always say soon is our favorite word.
It's fine because it doesn't define any period of time.
Yeah, soon.
Right.
Could be tomorrow, could be in a couple months, who knows?
Yeah. Going back to the stuff that we were talking about, some of those experiences that you've had the last 7 years, how has it felt having the experience? There are very few artists that get the opportunity to play in a sweaty club, your classic kind of almost barroom style venue, 500 people singing every word, to a band that gets to walk out on stage supporting Taylor Swift in a stadium or something. Do you have a preference over which one you buzz off more?
I feel like opening up for artists has been
the best thing in the world,
and has taught us so much. I mean, we've opened up for so many people. Phoenix, Kings of Leon, Florence, Mumford & Sons, Julian. Actually, Julian took us out
on tour.
That was our first
God.
opening up gig, and our first gigs out of Los Angeles.
Yeah, Julian.
When I was playing with Julian, he asked if we wanted to open up. I don't even know why.
I know. I remember getting the call. I remember you getting the call.
I was like, "What? You want us? We don't even have a freaking good record. We only have 3 songs on MySpace."
I know.
We literally had nothing.
That's a good question. I've never thought about that. Why did he?
I think he felt bad that he was taking Danielle away from us, and in a weird way, he was being really kind and just being you know what, bring your sisters. You guys can have fun. And Alana was still in high school.
Yeah,
Alana hadn't graduated yet, and I was just about to graduate from college. And I think both of us kind of risked the idea of not graduating to go on tour, which was the best decision ever. I mean, I think when we were posed with the question, we were just kind of there's no way
I'm going.
That was truly the biggest thing. I don't
just the idea of
the idea of going
traveling
on
across the country with Julian Casablancas sounded like we were going through a strange acid dream.
Right.
You know what I mean?
To what Danielle was saying, opening up for us was I think for me, when I look back on it, was the biggest gift, because you really, it's practice because you have to play every night, but you also learn so much about, being in a band and playing shows and putting on a show and all these things. And there were so many awkward years that we were opening up for people that we could kind of get that out by the time we were headlining shows. I mean, just getting the opportunity to play was the biggest deal for us. And opening up for so many bands. I mean, there people were calling us bridesmaids, never the brides. We were always openers, never headliners, which was so fun. I mean, honestly, opening still it's great. You get to play the show and drink afterwards and rage. Now we're a little bit more serious, but we were lucky enough to have all those people bring us out on tour. And then when we got to headlining shows, we kind of felt like we went to college a little bit. We had gone through music touring college. We were really ready to be headliners. I do think that being a band, if you're out there listening and you're in a band, like open up for as many people as you can, because it really is like the best experience ever, and it feels like a family.
Speaking of headliners, I went to Primavera Sound in Barcelona this
Oh
year.
yeah,
nice.
that's such a good festival.
An amazing festival,
So
one I
good.
know that you've played a number of times before.
Yeah.
Something they did this year that received a lot of positive press coverage and I think is great was the fact that they had a 50-50 gender balance in their lineup.
Yeah.
So as many
Yeah.
female artists playing as male artists.
Yes.
How hard do your eyes roll when you see festivals
Oh my
kind of
God.
making excuses for not booking female talent?
It's a huge eye roll because honestly, there's so many women. There's so many amazing artists out there that are women that are playing rock music especially. Like there's so many good bands out there that are either fronted by women or all women. And if like by now, I mean, I haven't seen any festival lineups, like, but it will be a huge fucking eye roll if women are not at least
Represented.
50-50. It should be
Yeah.
at least 50-50. Honestly, there's enough girl bands out there now that we could honestly take over festivals and be the majority. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much interesting music coming from women right now, and hearing.
And always, you know, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, it's just.
That's a big
Very
Danielle
It's a
side.
I
very-
think
it's a
that's the
big
thing that frosts
side.
our cookies the most, honestly.
Yep.
I think it's not only an eye roll, I think that it also angers us. But like Alana said, I think that, you know, the majority of the music that my sisters and I listen to is from females. I think maybe even all of it at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We'll see this festival season. We'll
Yeah,
see. But
definitely.
I have hope. I have hope.
I think now that Primavera have shown that positive example, I hope that others follow their lead.
Yes,
Yeah,
us
it would
too.
be awesome.
Final question.
Okay.
This podcast is going to go out not long before Halloween. I know that you often celebrate Halloween, get dressed up, go out, have fun. What's the best Halloween costume you've all ever had, and what are you planning?
Oh my
got any plans
gosh.
this year?
I feel like
Last year was really good because we had always we were the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus.
Amazing.
Was that a big movie here?
Yeah, it would
Yeah?
have been. Yeah.
I mean,
It's the best movie.
if it's like, go watch it. Everyone needs to watch Hocus Pocus.
It holds up.
Yeah, Bette Midler is a legend, but we were the Sanderson sisters last year, and I honestly like. We take Halloween so seriously, but I think because we did the Sanderson sisters last year, I feel like we don't have anything to
I
top
know.
it.
You set the
I
bar
have-
really
We
high.
set the bar
I have
so
some
high.
ideas. We
Um,
went to a couple parties in a graveyard growing up, and that was. I mean, I'm
Spooky.
obsessed with scary movies, and like
I can't watch them.
That's
I'm
Essie
not
on
really
her
into
own
the
island.
gory stuff, like the slasher films. I'm not into, but like, I don't know, like Poltergeist and like all the old school. I also like Friday the 13th, and even though that's kind of gory, but I am the weirdo that like goes to see the scary movie at midnight on Thursday before it comes out by herself. Because also no one will go with me.
Are you guys not?
No, they don't
No.
like scary
Okay,
movies.
fair
I'm
enough.
terrified.
Absolutely not.
None of my friends like
Absolutely
them.
not.
They're like, unless it's like a rom-com, like they're not going to go see it with me. So I am, again, the weirdo. Like,
Well, I
sitting in-
live alone. Like, I'm not going to try and watch a horror movie and then go home and be like, well, there's no one to protect me.
Do you know what you're going to be for Halloween this year?
I don't yet, but I'm kind of up for anything. I've been some very random stuff in the past. So.
Oh, I look back on some of my Halloween costumes and I'm like, I must have thought I was so smart and cool, but they're the most cringeworthy costumes. One year in high school, I was like I took this class called Art and Society, and we were studying artists, and I decided that I was going to be Picasso's Blue Period, and I covered myself in tampons and pads covered in blue like dye.
Because you're hit Picasso's blue.
Picasso's
period.
Blue Period.
Yeah, you're very punny on Halloween when you were little.
I wasn't even little. I was like 16, and I thought I was being so smart. And I just look back on photos, and my friends were like, "Yeah, that was really dumb." I don't know why. Like, no one said anything to you, but
What can you do?
Looking forward to seeing what you come up with this year.
I know, I'm very nervous. I don't know what it's going to be.
I have to figure it out.
Honestly, like Etsy's kind of like a miracle when it comes to Halloween costumes.
Yeah.
I mean, because growing up, we would always just like make our own costumes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, like there's one horrible. I don't know what mom like thought to like.
When you were a movie star, is that
I
what
was
you're
like
gonna
a
explain?
quote unquote movie star, and she just put me in one of her like silk slips.
Okay.
It was so weird, but it was cold that morning, so I was wearing like a turtleneck under it and like jeans and sneakers, but just also wore this long silk slip over it and just a feather boa.
Yeah, it was so weird. And Mom was like, "Go to school,
movie star." But no, Etsy's insane.
Yeah,
like you just type in whatever you want, and people like hand make like amazing costumes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I highly recommend.
So if you want to be Harry Potter this year,
have you ever seen the movie Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion?
Oh yeah.
No.
What?
Oh my
No, I've not
God.
seen it.
Oh.
I don't think they've even
What?
Oh,
Romeo and
come on.
Michelle's High School Reunion?
not Marissa Tomei.
Lisa Kudrow.
Lisa
Lisa
Kudrow,
Kudrow.
and what's her
my
name?
cultural knowledge.
Oh my gosh, no! You need to get that's your date tonight. You need to
Okay.
watch Romeo and Michelle's High School
It's a
Reunion.
90s
but there's
classic.
It's a 90s
Okay.
classic, but there's like a scene where they go to their high school reunion, which is in the title of the movie, and they wear these crazy dresses.
He's like
that-
90s, very.
90s
It almost
really-
looks like Clueless. I think it's the same.
Yeah,
same era.
Costume designer.
as
But-
Clueless. So you can imagine just like these 90s short dresses.
But they're iconic dresses. But like, there's no way you could go to a store and like buy one or buy anything. And, we on Etsy, someone makes
Someone
them.
makes
someone
them.
makes them.
Is that this year's done then? You could.
Well, that's only two people. I guess
know.
I could be
Yeah.
someone.
Oh,
It's
you could
really
be,
hard to find.
Janine Garofalo.
I could be Janine Garofalo.
That's kind of a good idea because
that's-
she's kind of the like other character.
It's really hard to get a costume for three people.
Yeah,
Two people,
two's easy.
loads.
Yeah.
Three people, like a post-it note of ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, even 4 is easier because it's
Yeah.
just,
Exactly.
suddenly you're the Ghostbusters or something.
Exactly.
I know.
Ghostbusters is a good one.
It's really hard. It's just so hard. But no, we'll figure it out.
Anyway, good night.